You're well. So, what is Mr. Postback and why should we care? Postbacks are boring. If everyone doesn't know what a postback is, then this is a little bit to help. But hopefully, some of you do know what postbacks are and you just want to stop them being a pain, right? So, let's get straight into it. Postbacks are, and we can look at this, basically the tracking of something and or a way of tracking something, right? So let's talk through this. Postbacks, sometimes known as server to server tracking or S to S, is kind of a difficult concept to understand, particularly if you don't have the context of what it actually means. So, what is a postback and how can Mr. Postback help? Well, postbacks are done like this. Basically, you have what's called a final landing page or a destination URL, sometimes it's called. It's the part or the address or the part of the app, wherever it is, the part of the internet that you want to send a user to. So typically, you use a tracking platform. And what the tracking platform does is take that final landing page and turn it into a tracking link. And that's what we're looking at here on this left hand part of this diagram. The tracking link often contains elements like an affiliate ID or an offer ID that are built into the tracking link so that it knows that this relates to this particular offer, for this particular landing page, for this particular affiliate, and so on. And you build that typically within your tracking platform. Now, a user comes along and they click that tracking link. And what do? They usually hit the tracking link server. So whether you're using something like Impact, Trachea, Volume, Cake, Tune, Everflow. All of these tracking platforms that are running server to server typically work in this way. The user will click on the tracking link and hit the server. And then what the system does is generate them a transaction ID or a click ID, sometimes it's called, which is basically a unique identifier to that particular event or action. So, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And that now, in a redirect, is passed through to that final landing page, just like a UTM parameter in Google. So 1, 2, 3, 4 stays there. And a postback, which is just a line of code, essentially, think of it almost like Google Analytics, it's just a line of code that sits there with a parameter ready to receive that macro, which is the transaction ID. And then it passes it back via a HTTPS GET request to the tracking platform. And that's how you know that something has happened. And think of it really as the postback just saying, hey, something has happened, fire that back to the tracking platform. And these can be not only just conversions, but of course, much more interesting stuff like post-conversion events. So if it's for something like a app install, right? Maybe the postback needs to live within an MMP integration like AppsFlyer or Adjust or Branch. Then you can fire back post-conversion events like install, registration, trial, upgrade. If it's a lead gen campaign, maybe the form is something like Form 1, Form 2, registration, upgrade, sale, etc. These postbacks can live kind of anywhere, either within a page or within other systems like CRMs or shopping carts. They can be all fired back into Everflow. Now, the big challenge is if you're using tracking software or a tracking platform, they call these different parameters and macros different things, right? So I say tomato, you say tomato. And so what the format kind of can be complicated is okay, I say revenue. What are you firing back to me? And what do you call it? Oh, you might call it value. Right. Now I understand that a sale has been made and I'm expecting to see $20 worth of revenue. And now that can fire back through the postback. So, how can Mr. Postback help? Well, basically, Mr. Postback is just a very simple tool. Now, I've been in the affiliate space for a long time, but I didn't understand postbacks until relatively recently. And what I've done is scrape the internet. I've got about 600 different macros and parameters from the leading tracking platforms, and I'm going to be adding more. This is just a little side sort of project that I'm doing. And then basically now we've got a macro directory. So we've got the parameters like sub1, and we've got the macros itself. And then what you can do is you can export these, you can search for them, you can copy them, you can do all of that stuff so that basically you can say, okay, you're using Affice. They actually use this parameter, and Everflow uses this parameter. So you can do that, and it's going to save you a whole bunch of time in kind of doing that. And then what else you can do, the more interesting part, and I'm just finalizing this now, is the actual tester. And this is where the beta comes in, because you'll be using beta, and then we're going to have like a back end, which is going to basically fire formats and return those formats back to you, like a listening postback as well. And you can test this. This is all free. Why am I doing it? Well, one is to learn, but also just to kind of basically understand and push it out there, and to start a dialogue. You know, if you're using postbacks, if you're using a tracking platform, like what is the problems that you're having? I'm not going to be supporting this, so it's not like a SaaS, but basically, I'm hoping it's going to be a repository that you can use to get value from, and that's the idea. Anyway, hope that is useful. Speak to you soon.